What is going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and it is time for another Friday Night Live. All right. We have a guest today because I just dropped him right in the middle of it. This is Justin Kimmel. We call him the professional fish head, and you guys will find out by the end of this why we call him that. But he's a good friend of mine. He works for Bass University, or Bass University TV, and has for how many years now? It's been a few.
Over 6, technically. Yeah, I'm my 5th year full time right now. So, just
dang, that's awesome.
It's been a nice run. I can remember the days when it was just a part-time gig and we didn't know what was possible yet at Bass U TV. So it's been a fun ride to be here for almost it all. I wasn't here at the very beginning, but I was in spirit.
Yeah. Well, everybody in the chat say hi to Justin.
What's up, guys?
A little bit about him. He fishes the BFLs. What is it? You have 7 wins in your career. 6. How many top 10s? Do what?
I don't know. Probably double, because I feel like I'm not like this top 10 machine. I feel like half of the time when I'm doing good enough to get a top 10, I've been fortunate enough to close the deal, but probably like 14 or 15. You know.
Yeah. But besides that, what I know the most about Justin is that your ability to retain fishing details is out of this world. I mean, there's only a couple other people in my lifetime that I've met that are able to retain that kind of stuff like you. I have to see it like 10,000 times before I remember that. Oh yeah, that'll catch a bass. You know, that kind of crap. So
yeah, we're a unique breed, you know, and it's funny because not all like professionals. You know, I work with a lot of touring professionals, if you will. And they're not always like on that same wavelength where they just want to geek out on techniques and tackle. And that's what I am. I want to know how everybody's doing it from coast to coast in Japan and Korea and South Africa, Mexico, Canada, everywhere, man. Like, I want to know how bass are caught, you know, and I love fishing derbies and tournaments. And so I want to know what techniques win and which ones really don't. And it's just an obsession that I can't shake. In fact, I think there might only be 1 or 2 professionals, like touring professionals, that I know that probably don't get sick of, you know, conversing with me over techniques and stuff. They'll get more worn out and tired than I will, you know, most of them. But there's a couple who are gearhead, you know, fish heads and of that nature, I guess. But
yeah. Well, the big announcement tonight, now that we got a little over 100 people on, is that Bass University is coming on as the official title sponsor of Friday Night Live, which I'm excited about. It's something that I've been thinking, you know, running over in my head for a couple of years, whether I really wanted to do that. And then Pete Glusek called me and said, "Hey man, what can we do to cross over and try to, you know, to get people back and forth between our 2 platforms." And that got the ball rolling. And I'm just thinking to myself, I said, why don't we just throw them in the middle of Friday Night Live and let's just have fun with it and see where it goes. And so that's why Justin's here tonight. Not only that, we're just going to do a lot of Q&A with him anyway, but tell us a little bit about Bass University, what it is and what it's, you know, what it's out there for.
Yeah. So first of all, Gene, we're thrilled to sponsor Bass U or Friday Night Live. You know, we if there's one thing that we have in common is education. You know, that's kind of the lane where we both are staying at, and you've done phenomenal with your YouTube channel. You know, I've learned from you, and I truly feel like, you know, after getting to know you even more over the past, you know, 5-6 years, we've learned from each other. You know, and it's really cool. There's always going to be more ways to continue to teach people how to catch more and bigger bass, and that's what we're at. Well, that's what we're about at Bass UTV. we're about making your time on the water more enjoyable. We just happen to be an online platform who has tried to hire experts in their field, not just an expert bass fisherman, a bass fisherman who is an expert at, say, flipping docks. Well, he's going to do the flipping docks seminar. They've proven that they're known for that. That's what I'm always trying to do, is line up the right lessons, the right seminars, with the right teachers. And we've got a lot more things to cover, but we're up over 900 full-length seminar videos and on-water videos, and we do some interviews. But most of the time, our product's going to be 30 minutes to over an hour long. So we're really there for the in-depth. We pay our instructors too, so that we get those details. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth, and most of the time these guys are willing to buy in. It's a culture thing for us. We truly are. Nothing gets me more excited. We just had a couple more come in today. Somebody caught their personal best bass, and it had to do with a video they watched recently, and they let us know, like, that's what this is all about for us. It truly is, and whether it's got the fun fisherman who just fishes on the weekends, or whether we got a lot of tournament anglers. And heck, man, I've got big time professional Bassmaster Classic winning anglers who are still using my product to continue to learn. And I think I'm talking to another guy right here who is one of our subscribers. And like I said, we from each other.
I am subscriber number 940 something.
Wow.
So it's been a long time I've been a subscriber.
Yes.
So
that's probably since the first year, man.
Yeah, well, the history of me and Bass U. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. The history of me and Bass U is years ago. Mike Iaconelli, that's when I was with Bass Resource. Nick, the Informative Fisherman's on here. I was on Bass Resource, or working with them, and Iaconelli stepped out of, I believe it was either the Classic Expo or ICAST. I think it was ICAST. But anyway, stepped out, and I had the camera for a Bass Resource, and I videotaped the first promotional video that Ike ever did about Bass University TV. So wow. I was the cameraman.
Years ago, or maybe 6 or 7 years ago, maybe?
It was a year before him and Becky got married. They were still dating. So
that might not even have been Bass U TV. It could have been the Bass U seminars.
It might have been. It might have been.
Because there was a window where they started the seminars. I think they decided to start filming them pretty soon after. And man, Bass U TV didn't get launched. Just some history here. Bass U TV, I don't think got launched until after we had filmed 4 years worth of seminars or something. They travel around the country and do seminars and stuff. And to this day, our most popular product is the in-classroom seminar.
Yeah, I believe
we try to do a lot of different things, but that's the niche we've carved out, is that detailed seminar teaching style, and it really helps people. Obviously, it helps me. I feel like I'm a living, breathing, the student of the game over here at Bass U. I have to be, but I love it. So that's cool.
It's
really cool.
Yeah, dude. So there's a lot of history. It really is. I enjoyed watching it grow. I remember way back there used to be like the Bassmaster College or Bassmaster. I can't remember what they called it, but back in the
Master University.
Okay, they did. And then ESPN bought a Bassmaster, or Disney, and did away with that altogether. And then I remember Iaconelli was like, dude, we got to bring this back.
Super passionate about education. I don't think I could have spent another year without being involved. He just saw the gap, right? Like the anglers were doing it, and kind of like you, right? You saw the same thing, probably in the same 2, 3, 4 year time frame, where people just weren't there just wasn't a lot of options for high level education for the beginner all the way to the advanced angler, you know?
Yep. Yep.
So,
Definitely. Well, guys, down in the description, you'll find a link to Bass U. I've got a banner I'm going to pop up here in just a second, where where you can go and literally, like I said, I remember like 940 something, and I've been paying $15 a month for a lot of years, and it's worth every dime. I tell them straight up, I'm, me, I don't lie about anything. I steal their content a lot. Because when I'm doing research for a video, I don't just want to tell you my knowledge. I want to tell you all the details that I can learn about that topic throw that into a video. And I go to their seminars. I go, I watch their seminars. I've done all kinds of stuff, and I get a ton of knowledge from those pros and throw it into a video so you guys can watch it. I'm not shy, dude. It's just, I'm the first one to tell you, I don't know everything. And so that's true for sure. But check it out. It's $15 a month. And like I said, these are our new title sponsors. And we're gonna do this for a while. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. But let's get this thing popped off with some Q&A and get rocking and rolling. This may last an hour. This may last 2 hours. I don't know. I told Justin we're gonna go until I can't talk anymore. And really
so we'll just drain your voice. How about that?
Yeah, that works. Michael Moon, thanks for the $5. He says Bass U is an awesome resource, and the weekend seminars are always so much fun. You know who Michael Moon is? They always over at the Gadsden show. Him and his son.
One of our committed Bass U students who's always there every time we're in Gadsden, Alabama, and we'll be there again in January. Can't wait.
Yep, definitely. I'll be there then. That's for sure. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to pick out a question, but Kathy Matheny. Hey, Kathy, how you doing? She's over in Augusta. She goes, I love being able to search on specific techniques, lures, and seasons on Bass U. So easy to find what you're looking for.
Love it.
Yep, it is. It is. I haven't found a topic yet that they don't have a little bit of something about. There are a few that I. Yep. Yep, definitely. Yeah. There's a few that I'd like to see more of, but that's further down the road and it's coming.
I need you to make sure you're letting me know that, Fluke. And I'm taking a page out of Iconelli's handbook the last year or two. I'm really watching what's going on overseas, and there's some techniques that have somehow quietly won tournaments, whether it be a final day comeback that doesn't get on camera or something that honestly nobody's really talked about, and I can't wait to finally get that on Bass U TV and stuff, because some of these things are just fish catchers for everybody.
Wow, so. That's awesome. And do you find that there's more finesse techniques coming out of Japan, or just both?
Man, I would say some of the big swim bait stuff. I mean, I think it's equal, and a lot of times it's like far ends of the spectrum, like big giant baits, big loud baits, and big. Some of these techniques, one of my favorite thing is to see them take those big jointed baits that are like 4 ounces or a giant glide bait, and if they get a follower or something, they'll just be like back at the boat, and you'll see these videos, and the guys just right back and forth across the water, and all of a sudden, right at the guy's feet, this 8-pounder just goes, And I'm like, how on earth is that happening? Like, I love it though.
Man,
they are, because of the intense. We think we have some fishing pressure issues. They have such major fishing pressure. On their big, clear bodies of water. That's why they're the masters of finesse and outside the box technique. Yep. And I mean, patience to throw a weightless, just these random weightless lures like that. There's a lot of weightless stuff going on right now that I'm seeing. And it's not for shallow stuff. Like, people are like waiting, being so patient with this stuff where like they'll let this thing fall 20, 30 feet deep and fish it that deep, but it's weightless.
Golly.
Can you imagine doing that? Like I can remember a couple times here in Georgia, which you and I both have grown up in Georgia, where like I've got on like a really cold bite where you had to like dead stick a fluke for 20 seconds to get bit. You know, that was painful, but it was the only way to get a bite or something. But no, they're the masters of patience, and there's a lot of cool finesse stuff that has really yet to captivate the American fishing community. So, but yeah, I do have my eyes on our friends out overseas.
That's awesome. Here's a good question from Mark Puller over at Facebook. He says, do the hot summer months of harder fishing ever make you doubt your techniques?
Okay. I'm guessing the brutal heat, he's not getting a lot of bites. So do the hard, man, if I go 30 minutes without a bite, yeah, I'm doubting the technique and I'm tying something else on.
Yep.
You know, I am not the type of guy, and maybe it's a lot of the tournament angler in me, and we're not all like that. But we all want to catch fish. I will, when it's tough, I will give more time. But like if it wasn't tough, it's hard for me to go 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, if there's anything that electronics have shown us, Gene, it's that there's so many fish in so many places. It's honestly rare to be somewhere where you're not close to a bass. You know, at least that's what I'm finding. It's just ones that or you're throwing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But I hope that answers that. I would encourage you to expand your techniques options, change baits, mess with action.
Yeah. Speed and action.
Yeah, you know. Then you can, like, if you're fishing really super clear water and you're getting bit, but they're not getting all of it, that's when you might want to start switching colors. But I'm more worried about changing baits, changing actions within those bait categories if they're giving you, you know, if you'll get a response out of a fish, even like if it's a bite or they're following it, you might be onto the right bait. So you might need to change the action or the retrieve, you know. But yeah, I'd say action is probably the most important thing to be playing around with, changing.
One of the turning points in my fishing life was when I got to the point where I can immediately recognize when I've lost confidence. You know, when I've lost confidence in a bait or an area or something, and immediately go and change it. And so I'm not beating a dead horse for too long. And that's the biggest thing in the summer months. I'll tell you how I've been catching them. I mean, I caught giants all last month. In the kayak world, I had 16 straight days of 100 inches or more on my local lake. Okay. And I can tell you how
20 pounds in my world. And
yeah, that's 22 to 25 pounds depending. Yeah. And I had a couple of 27, 28 pound days.
Woo.
And I am dragging a jig and a worm so slow that you probably want to take a nap between casts, because I'm taking, and I look at the clock and I'm like, I got an hour. So I've got 15 casts maybe to catch a fish in these spots. And so I'm not moving around much. I'm anchoring down, or I've got the pinpoint on my motor guide on the kayak, just not locked down, and I'm just casting and dragging, but I'm dragging on offshore structure, you know, and I'm hitting key spots and I'm hitting key casting angles. And I got to have confidence in that angle. I got to have constant confidence in that spot to spend an hour in just a few casts.
Let me put emphasis on what he just said there. He's got to have confidence in that spot. Whether you're looking at your electronics, forward-facing sonar, if you have it and you know it's there, or you have history there, or you can create confidence out of thin air. But if you don't have the confidence that they're there, you're not going to have the confidence to slow down and put it in front of its face that slow. You know, It takes confidence to fish really slow. It really does.
So one of the things I forgot to mention at the beginning of this thing is we're doing several giveaways, or Justin is from Bash U. And so what I'm doing is I'm randomly picking people that are on here to basically you shoot me your mailing address or your email and your email address.
Yeah.
We're giving away what, 4 hats?
The red, white, and
those. Yeah, those are brand new. I've never seen those.
Brand spanking new. We came out with them right before Memorial Day, and had them circulating for Memorial Day and July 4th this year. And,
and then
very popular. If you guys don't win one tonight and you want one, the only place to get it is at Tackle Warehouse right now.
Oh wow, okay. And use my affiliate link down in the description. Anyway, and then
ours.
Yeah, don't use theirs. Then at the end of the show, we're going to give away a 1-year subscription. Am I correct in saying that? To Bash U. That's amazing.
Value, baby.
Yep, exactly. So you guys hang on here. We're going to randomly pick people as we go along. Mark Puller, I'm going to pick you for your first hat. And since you're on Facebook, just message me your mailing address on Facebook, and I'll pull it off of there, and we'll send it to Bash U, and we'll get all that taken care of. So that's awesome. Congratulations, man. All right, let's go. Let's pick another question real quick. Let's see. Oh, that's a good one. And I'm going to expound on this one. Kevin Woods over on Facebook says, why Alumacraft versus Express Crestliner going aluminum soon? I'll tell you why Alumacraft. So the story goes, I had an old Triton 185 Sport. It was the old aluminum Triton aluminum bass boats. And I bought it before Triton was sold, and then I had it till after Triton was sold, and then I developed some cracks and welds, and it started to flex a lot. I started to get a constant crack down the keel, and so I'd get it fixed and then come back, and I'd be without it for 2.5 to 3 months, and not able to do videos out of my boat for that long was horrible. And so the third time that it happened, I was on Santee Cooper. And I developed a 36-inch crack down the keel, and I almost sunk the boat. I got back to the boat ramp. You know how fun it is to run on Santee, right, Justin?
Never.
I had to run. Wow.
I've always heard it's a nightmare. And I think I definitely had a friend or two who's lost a lower unit there.
Yeah, and there's stumps everywhere. So I was full bore back to the boat ramp. Luckily, when I noticed that I was sinking, I was only about a quarter of a mile from the ramp. I had been as far as 15 miles. And so I pulled the plug out of the boat, and I got up on plane and hauled butt to the boat ramp, and got to the boat ramp, pulled it up on the trailer, and it drained for almost 30 minutes. So that's how much water was in my boat. And so I got home and told my wife, I said, look, I have got to go buy a new boat. We were right at that break-even point with YouTube where I was no longer spending more money than I was making. I was just barely getting along. And I was like, honey, I got to go spend $30,000 to $35,000 on a new boat to make this still work, you know? And I'm like, this sucks because we've worked so hard to get to the point where we weren't in the red. Yeah. And 4 days later, I get a call from Alumacraft, literally out of the blue. 4 days later.
That's so
cool. And so through phone conversations and stuff like that, they said, you know what? We love what you're doing. We love where you're going. We're gonna hook you up with a boat every year. And, you know, you just help us develop the boat and help us make a bass boat and help us sell them in the South. And so it's been great. They saved this is what they saved. And so that's why Alumacraft. I love the boat. The Pro 185 is my baby. I helped with the layout. What you see is a boat that you can customize to where you can carry as many as 40 rods in an aluminum boat. Or you can carry all the tackle that you want. And storage is important to me, of course. Yep. But I just love the company. And they have been really good to me, even through this COVID mess and them shutting down the Arkadelphia plant and moving it up north and that kind of stuff. They've really been good to me, and it's a great company. And they make a great boat. If you ever want to tell what a good boat is, you go look at the finish welds on the backs of the boats, on the transoms and up in the front of the boat. Look at those finish welds. If they are beautiful, that company cares about their boats, you know. And so, and Alumacraft's got some of the best, most beautiful welds there are. I mean, it just is what it is. And that came from a friend of mine who'd been welding for 40 years. So, but that's why.
That's cool.
But yeah. And as for fiberglass and I get this question too, and it's going to be a follow-up question from somebody. Fiberglass and aluminum. The reason I'm on aluminum is because I'm on the water 200 plus days a year, and cost per day to use an aluminum boat is pennies compared to a fiberglass boat. You know, I'm $100 a day in a fiberglass boat, $20 a day in an aluminum boat. You can't you run the risk if you want to fish big boat tournaments, though. You don't have the range, you don't have the speed.
Mm-hmm.
You do run a risk of being of there being a negative when you're wanting to fish big boat tournaments. But I used to fish those Wednesday night tournaments out of Sugar Creek on Lake Oconee out of a 14-foot John boat with an 8-horse tiller.
You don't need hardly any boat to fish those, you know.
And who's the Kip Carter?
Oh yeah, Kip's our.
He used to fish them, and I'd watch him and his FLW boat go back and forth past me during the whole night, and he never beat me. You know, he never, and that's his home lake.
Yeah,
and so
home lake, but Oconee.
Yeah.
It's the same system. Kip's got into the aluminum phase now.
Oh really? I haven't seen him in years.
Took his aluminum to Lake Wheeler, and he won a Toyota Series event last year out of his aluminum. But he's now Georgia's best BFL level angler by far.
Yeah, God, by far.
Fished with him my last co-angler event, and it quite possibly might be my last co-angler event ever. But I got to fish with Kip, and it was really cool.
That's awesome.
Draw him out and learn a thing or two. But yeah, the man knows when to pull out that aluminum tournament. A lot of times in those fall regionals and stuff, he'll take that aluminum and go way up a creek or upriver and get places that us guys in our glass boats could never dream of getting. You know, you can get to so many different. It's the closest thing you can get to a kayak in a bass boat tournament. You know.
Yep.
You know, that's your only chance to get to fish that those bass boat guys can't get to.
Yeah. No kidding. Hey, Christian over at YOLO Tech. Man, thanks for the $100, brother. He says Team YOLO Tech loves those that teach others to fish. For sure. You've probably met Christian.
Dude, Justin. I don't have. No.
He's the one always carrying the YOLO Tech stick around all the shows.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That I've met him. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, good people, man. All right, let's go. Outdoors Jack. I've tried crankbaits, jerkbaits, jigs, everything, but I always go back to the tried and reuse Yum Zinger in June bug. Now the Yum Zinger is like a Cinco. Am I right? What's the Zinger?
The Dingers. It's a mistype. S is next.
Yeah.
Keyboard. So it's Dinger, and that is the soft stick bait version, the Cinco version in Yum.
Yep. And I'm one of those that I'll use every single one of the different types of stick baits. But if I'm in a tournament, I'm throwing the Gary Yamamoto. So.
Well, you need to start messing around with that general sometime.
Yeah. I definitely.
Times when that Max scent has shown me things that just crazy.
See, I haven't even tried the Max scent, so it's one of those that it kind of flew. It flew under my radar for about a year and a half, and then I'm one of those. It took me 4 years to try a chatterbait, so I'm one of those that's just kind of I'm gonna wait and look and see, but I'm gonna have to grab some and check and try it.
Yeah, I mean,
for sure.
I'm such a geek that I think there are times when I think scent matters more than others, and I think that's when I reach for the general, like around the spawn. And it might be in my head that I want something smelly that they'll just get better when they're on a bed, and they might not, want to. Obviously, smallmouth up north, scent matters. Spotted bass, I think scent matters more with them. I've gotten on some shaky head bites with that Max scent where they just eat it so much better than just kind of your regular plastic stuff. The spots, that is. And then Gosh. Oh, and like when I'm going like a wacky rig and I want to go weightless, like dude, that Missile 48 is it's got more of like a flatter bottom almost, so it's kind of like this Cinco trickworm type hybrid, but it's identical on either side.
Mm-hmm.
And they eat that thing, man. On wacky jig head too up north, I've had some days that were great with that bait too.
I'm gonna have to make it run to the store.
Yeah, Gene, I got a few people that don't like talking to me about all this stuff because I just end up spending their money. But I'll spend your money for you anytime you want, man. You just come.
That's funny. Ollie Zamora, how you doing, man? Thanks for the $5. He says, my husband, or she says, my husband and I are headed to Douglas Lake next week. Any tips for largemouth or smallmouth? Where is Douglas?
Douglas is in Tennessee, East Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
So I'm going to asterisk this by saying I know a lot of people who fish Douglas. I have never fished Douglas, but if I was going up there and I feel like, let's see, we're getting into August. Those offshore fish in the main lake stuff, they're going to have been harassed ever since June. I would be trying to get up river or safely or get up a creek somewhere. I'd probably say get up a creek and try your hand at fishing isolated cover for largemouths is what I would say this time of year. And, you might get them, if you get a cloudy day, you might get them on top, buzzbait or a spook on an isolated target, or flip a jig or a lightweight Texas rig, or even throw some balsa around if you like throwing square bills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Up a creek is where you're going to find the majority of your oxygen this time of year anyway, when the water gets real hot. And so I was fishing 93 to 94 degree water temperature last month. That's
where at?
Just here at Rocky Mountain.
Wow.
Yeah, it's and the fish were coming up, like they look like they've been in a live well all day. They pink around their gill plates, and
yeah.
So I literally get them, put them on the measuring board, and put them right back in the water. Not even take pictures, just get them back down so they could go down deep. So it's just too hot. And the problem with that lake is that the visibility is so low that the thermocline is still up there.
Yeah.
Still fairly shallow. And so there's not a lot of area for them to move up and down to find oxygen. And there's no grass. So we really take care of them in the summertime. That's why a lot of people haven't seen videos from me fishing last month, or even pictures. It's because I didn't want to kill those fish.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. And so we take really good care of those fish. It's a special lake. If I had to say, it's the best lake in Georgia right now.
Wow.
And so, but you have to know how to fish it. You can go there, 20 people go there, and 19 of them will get skunked. So, yeah, it's fun.
Come with you.
Do what?
So what you're saying is I need to come with you in January or February when they're really fat. Okay.
Well, they're fat right now. Our gizzard shad are 12 inches long.
They're getting fed. Oh,
yeah.
Imagine how much they weigh and that first full moon in February. Sign me up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not the one to fish with in the wintertime. I can catch them, but we got another angler who owns that lake in the wintertime.
Really?
He'll be out there in his kayak too. I guarantee it.
Wow.
For sure. Okay. Let's see if we can find another one. Hey, there's one from Kevin Woods. He says, thanks, Justin. I learned tons from your co-angler Bash You episode a few months ago.
Thanks. That's awesome.
I think I joined in on that one.
I been pretty fortunate to have some success as a co-angler, and honestly thought I was going to be back to just doing that this year. Honestly, was contemplating whether or not I had enough time to compete on the front of the boat. So things changed in my favor there, but no, yeah. I loved competing as a co-angler, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, that was a good episode. I think I got in about halfway through it, and yeah, it was Yep, for sure. That's a good. Outdoor Jack says, what are your tips for fishing in this humid weather? Well, the bass are always humid. They're in 100% humidity, guaranteed.
That's the
Drink so water, the big
lots of water, Jack.
Yes, I call this my whoopee. Literally, it's with me 100% of the time. It's always full of water, and I'm always drinking it. And I'll go back to my truck and refill it halfway through the day. And yeah, that's the biggest thing, man. It's been hot. It's been really miserably muggy, and especially here in the South. But the best thing is just to drink water and suck it up, Buttercup, because it's just going to be hot and nasty. You know.
And honestly, the days that might feel more humid than not, pack that buzzbait, pack up the top waters, and don't, throw them early in the morning, late in the evening on those days in these hot, humid summer days. But don't sleep on that lunch hour either. Make sure you throw it around some shade, because we're getting to the point in the summer where, and I don't know where you're at, but in a lot of reservoirs, specifically in rivers, of course, this would apply to, because they're going to get up on the bank. But in a lot of these reservoirs where fish spend a lot of time offshore, you'll have a lot of big ones start to creep up back on the bank on the hottest days in the summer. And I've caught just so many big fish in August and September, really. And in Georgia, September is like heat of the summer.
Yeah.
So still, but for the most part. And but yeah, I've caught so many big fish in August, and I've never really reasoned anything except they just start coming back to the bank a little bit more.
Yeah, for me, and the guys who've been following me for years know that August and September, I'm ready to pack it up and throw it and go stay home. I mean, it is miserable, nasty. Luckily, I get to travel now, so I think in September I'm going to be up in Wisconsin doing a photo shoot for Seagar. So I'm going to be up. I'm going to haul my boat up there and stay an extra week.
Oh, man. Work is so hard, Gene.
But if I don't, I lose my mind down here. I really do.
Yeah. But it would be easy, but you might get to the fish of a lifetime, on these hot, humid days.
Well, that's a one key thing is, about 3 weeks ago, I'm pulling up to the boat ramp, and coming out, pulling his boat on a trailer was this older gentleman who was a fan of mine. And he was like, why is it that whenever I'm getting off the lake, you're just arriving to the lake? He says, and I don't catch a thing and you catch giants. What is going on? I'm like, it is what it is. I mean, I don't get to the lake until 10 o'clock in the morning. And I fish all through the heat of the day and into the evening, because I enjoy following them up into the shallow water for the evening bite. Mm-hmm. I'm not nearly as successful as I am during the day when they're out off on the deep structure. But yeah, try fishing all from 10 till 4 or 10 to 5 and see what happens. But you got to get offshore. Or no, unless you have got grass, unless you've got something that's going to stir up the current. See, my lake here has no way to stir up current unless there's wind.
Yeah. See, and you probably don't get mayflies or
very few
like that in a lake like that to pull them up shallow this time of year.
Yeah, the shad they'll push the shad up into the upper part of the water column, but they'll break surface and go right back down. They're not going to stay up there for top water. But you're right though, with the buzz bait in the middle of the day on Clark's Hill, I used to wear them out in less than a foot of water all through the heat of the day. Throw it all the way up on the bank and pull it off the bank like you would do a shad spawn, in the middle of August. And all the way through October, August, September, October. That's all I was. One of the big things I was doing on Clark's Hill. It had clear water, the fish would push shallow, you'd have current. I mean, a bunch of different things that'll push them up there. But yeah, definitely buzzbait's a thing. Here's a good question. He said, thoughts on live scope? I'll give you mine. Okay, I've got live scope. I've got a Garmin live scope on my kayak. I'm waiting until I get my new boat to put it on the boat, but I've got it on my kayak. And it's cheating straight up. I love it. In my mind, I love it because I can see the fish. I can see how they're positioned. I'm at that point now. I've used it so much that I can tell you about what the size of the fish are and be close within an inch or an inch and a half of how big they are. So I can scan an area pretty quick. The one drawback is I feel like I forget how to just what I call regular fish, and pull. And so I'll spend a day or two. I'll pull it off the boat and I'll go fishing, and I'll just work an area like I used to do. But what a live scope does for me is it reduces my cast by 2/3. The number of casts a day that I have to make to catch the number of fish is a 2/3 reduction. And so, but there are drawbacks. It's not for scanning a large area like you would use your side imaging. It's not for looking for offshore structure. It's to position myself on offshore structure. But if I'm looking for offshore structure, I'm still using my side imaging, my down imaging, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Because I know yours are totally different than mine.
Well, first off, I'd recommend that you go to Bass U TV and watch Patrick Walter's seminar on forward-facing sonar. That's been one of the most popular that we've released this year. He is a true expert on forward-facing sonar, and he's proven it, backed it up in tournaments. But yeah, I think it's changing the game, Gene. It's going to be interesting to see. When I'm fishing, most of the time, all my fishing it revolves around tournament fishing. When LiveScope came out, my team partner got it, and of course we fell in love with it. But there was some lakes like around the house here that it just didn't play a lot. Fish are on the bank, they're under docks, they're relating to isolated targets and stuff that. But once you get to those lakes where you're offshore, mid-depth to, out deep, man, was it a great tool, and has it been a great tool for us in those team tournaments, and completely changed the way everybody's fishing in the tournament world where I'm participating. Once you get to, say, the Opens levels and the Toyota Series and on up, very few guys are competing without forward-facing sonar, which shout out to my buddy, local buddy, Clay Johns, which you might know who he is, Gene, in the Sinclair region. He just won Rookie of the Year. No live scope, no nothing like that on his deck. He's very much of the John Cox mold. Get up, fish in the dirt, and he caught him in the dirt everywhere this year and won Rookie of the Year by a landslide, qualified for the Bass Pro Tour first try. So it was pretty cool to see. It also makes me wonder, what's going to happen? Are more and more people getting off the bank? Are these fish getting more pressured than they've ever been? I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now, go take it to Lake Lanier and then come back and tell me if you love it.
Yeah.
Because those fish are so moody, so picky, and it drives you nuts on LiveScope, because LiveScope, you're seeing everything like you're talking about. And don't get me wrong, forward-facing sonar is such an amazing tool. But, oh my gosh, these fish have just been pestered and pestered and pestered. I got on a couple groups the last time I went, which was, I don't know, six weeks ago, I guess. And they were all over my stuff. But then I couldn't hardly hook any of them. It just drove me nuts. And that's the thing where if you're new with LiveScope, it can drive you nuts. Because you're seeing now, there's fish everywhere. Every brush pile I pull up, every point, there's at least some fish there. And you get to interact with those fish now. So the thing I'd have to say is you will find yourself frustrated and chasing ghosts just as much as you will find yourself enjoying the successful moments while using it. You will have moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got to see that. The thing I would tell you to do is pay attention to the behavior of the fish.
Yep.
Because now I'm getting to the point where I can pretty much tell if I'm going to catch one on the first cast or not when I pull to the offshore places. And I can tell you, I might throw a couple things. I might, try to just get one bite or something, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the ones that look like they're not going to bite. I'll move.
Yeah.
I'm more willing to move on. And like now you're figuring out how big these fish are. So when you know that there's a bunch of 4 to 5 pounders on there, they're hard to lead, but they can waste the most time.
Well,
so for me in a tournament situation, it just drives you bonkers.
Yeah. You remember the underwater cameras?
Shout out to Lee Means, by the way.
Yeah, is he texting you too?
Always.
Yeah, you knucklehead.
I gotta go see him out in Gunnersville this fall.
Yeah, I've got a pre-fish for the Spro Frog tournament in October, so I'll be out that way anyway. So
I'm fishing those frogs only tournaments, man. Oh, I miss them. I used to fish at least one of them every year. It was always Spro or Snag Proof back in. Gosh, I miss going over there and fishing.
Well, I think Jordan will disown me if I don't fish it this year. So I promised him the last 2 years, and something always comes up. So definitely. All right.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. Jonathan Fullwood, I know it's been a minute, but thanks for the $5 donate. Says, just wanted to say that thank you so much for all you're doing. We caught a bunch of little fish with our 2-year-old daughter on pink Cincos for her first fish. How freaking cool is that? Jonathan, we're going to send you a hat. If you're still on here, let us know. You can either go to my Facebook page and shoot me your address, or you can go to my email, which is, let me drop that banner up real quick, Gene@flukemaster.com, and shoot it there. Facebook is better than Gene@flukemaster.com, but we can do either one. So, send your mailing address and we'll get you out a hat. And like I said, you guys who are new on here, we got 2 more hats to give away, and we're giving away a 1-year subscription at the end of this deal to Bass University. So pretty cool. All right. And there was another one that donated. I always try to get to those eventually. Matthew Wadsager. He says, thanks for the $10, brother. He says, what is your opinion on line color? I've read both where color matters and other people say it doesn't matter, that it just helps you see your line. For me, to be honest with you, sometimes it matters. Sometimes I can prove that it matters, and sometimes I can prove it doesn't matter at all. And you're right about seeing line. I love high vis on my spinning rods. Seaguar's got that high vis, real bright fluorescent green line that I love, absolutely love, and so yes and yes. And that's my opinion, is sometimes it matters, and sometimes I can prove that I could throw straight braid in super clear water and catch them. There's never a rhyme or reason. And of course, I always say bass don't read the rule books anyway. But what do you think, Justin?
I think line color matters. That's a really cool, awesome question. Like if you're tournament fishing and you're fishing tournaments where 100, 200, 300, 400 people are all fishing a lot of the same stretches and stuff, and you're fishing for pressured fish. Like pressure is such a factor that matters. If these fish aren't encountering lots of fishing pressure, then I don't think it matters. I don't think line size matters, line color matters. I mean, I think the biggest thing about line size is your action of your lures. I think that's the most important, to correlate line size. I'm not the kind of guy that's trying to throw 20, 25 pound or 65, 80 pound on everything I can get away with. I just try to line it up with whatever action I need to be getting out of the lure. I think, I have just as much confidence, catching a big giant spotted bass out of 45, 60 foot timber with 6 pound test as much, as I do 80 pound braid up in the grass. But as far as color goes, I think it can matter on pressured fish, and I want to use clear fluorocarbon in those clear water situations, and I will color my braid to try to get it dark, and I know it's funny I'm bringing him up again. I know Clay Johns, he'll color his braid all different kinds of colors based on watercolor and all that kind of stuff. So he's got a pretty unique point of view on that. But I normally just color my braid black. It's not gonna reflect any kind of light or anything. But that's really picky clear water.
Well, and braid loses its dye no matter what it is, it's always going to lose its dye just because that material is hard to hold a dye anyway. So I always keep a Sharpie with me. Seaguar's got that new 101 line that's coming out that's got camo braid. I don't know how that, I love the colors. It looks really cool.
Yeah,
but
do that, and I think it's really cool too. I'm curious if it fades too.
It'd have to, because I've yet to see a braid that doesn't fade.
Yeah.
And you just have to keep coloring it. And that's a good tip, is always keep and I like the big fat Sharpies, because you can put a cut in them. You can take your knife, cut a little cut in them, and then you can just run your braid through them one swipe and get all of it done.
Yep.
So all right. Luann Clapp, how you doing? She goes, on my way to a tournament, won't say what lake. Don't want you to give me anything specific, but there's a lot of stumps and it's in Michigan. Any thoughts on handling stumps?
Michigan. I wonder if she's going after largemouth or smallmouth.
I'd say I'd have to say largemouth. Really.
Yeah. And I'm going to give you something that might work for both. And you're dealing with stumps. Take a square bill crankbait, like a 1.5 inch size, and burn that thing around and contact those stumps. I'm thinking through Michigan. I've been up there in August before. Take that square bill crankbait and see if that doesn't catch, because that'll catch. If you have smallmouth, it'll catch those too. I'm thinking largemouth, but that's you want to make contact with the stumps if they're living around them. You want to make contact for sure.
Yeah, the first place I always look are the stumps that are closer to the drops, closer to deeper water. If you have a creek channel, and I know Michigan doesn't have a whole lot of creek channels depending on the lakes that you're in. There's not a whole lot of man-made lakes, but you want to be, I look for those 45-degree banks, but I want to focus on where they go from 45-degree banks to starting to flatten out just a little bit and starting to head out to a point, and I'll start there and I'll hit those stumps. And I go back to fishing some of the lakes I grew up on that were just full of trees, and you could beat yourself to death fishing every tree. And, because every one of them looks like they got a fish on there. But if you put your boat in the creek channel or put your boat in the deep water and you just focus on those trees that are close to that deep water, you're going to end up catching more fish. So
that's good. That's a good tip.
Yeah. Good luck tomorrow, Luann. That's pretty exciting, man. I saw a question a minute ago. I asked if I was fishing the KBF challenges this month. No, I'm not. My goal was to get 3 wins in the challenges this year, the monthly challenges, and then kind of, max out my points and then call it good. So J-Doc, thanks for the $5, man. I appreciate it.
Did you already do that, Gene?
Yeah. I've won 3 this year.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. And, I wasn't even going to enter my fish this last month. I caught a bunch of them for another tournament, but I had entered the challenge tournaments, and the identifier was in there and everything else. And I was like, and I looked at my standings. I'm like, I need to max out and just get it done with. So I dropped all my fish the last day of the tournament. So I was sandbagging, but not on purpose. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to. But I had 114 inches last month, which was some studs. So Byron Turner says, Gene, you're the most informative fishing person I have seen on YouTube. You're my go-to when I want to learn something new or see what I'm doing wrong. Thanks, man. There are some others that are really good. I've just got a lot more videos than most everybody because I've been doing it for so stinking long. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm at 14 years now or 15 years on YouTube. I don't know. Something like that. Yeah. Somebody told me I had 760 something videos.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's nuts. Crazy. I can't believe it. And when I started, I had no clue where it was going. I just did it because nobody else was doing it.
Yep.
You know, me and Nick, the informative fisherman.
Yep.
You know, out in California, but he was one of those weird Californians. I was like, him and I are friends now. We get this fake beef going back and forth between us.
Funny.
But yeah, it's a.
I think
it was just
talked to him. ICAST 2019, I guess, since we didn't have it in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Had a cool conversation with Nick too.
Yeah, he's good people. He's too tall for me. I have to look up to him like this. He's tall. Goodness gracious. All right, Justin Block, man, thanks for the $5. He says, what are your thoughts on the new Topwater specific line? Also, y'all rock. Is there a new Topwater specific line?
Topwater.
Wonder who makes it.
Yeah, it's Topwater line by. I think it might be a P line. I think it could be a mono type Topwater line. I could find that out. And
I haven't tried anything like that. I usually just go to mono. But
yeah, it's P line Topwater line. So it's a copolymer. And I will say this, P line makes, like, I don't fish mono, and when I do, I like copolymer or Berkeley Big Game.
Mm-hmm.
It's either Berkeley Big Game or P line CXX. So P line CXX is definitely a copolymer. So
yep.
I'm sure that Topwater is similar and might have some more properties that have a higher float rate or something, you know?
Yep. I've always used Iserline XXX.
I'll be
copolymer.
honest, the time I'm throwing mono is when I'm throwing a Pop R in short targets. If I'm bombing it, I'll throw braid. But if I'm like short targets, you know, that gives it a little bit when you're getting those aggressive strikes. You know, you want a little bit of stretch, and then every now and then I'll do it with buzzbaits. You know, and it's kind of the same situation.
Yep. Here's a good question from my buddy Phantom Fishing. He says, we have a 9 a.m. lull here pretty often. He's in Illinois. 9 a.m. lull here pretty often. Are the fish moving or just not eating? Well, it's because you suck. No, him and I, when we get on a boat together, it is everybody would think that I am the worst friend possible because we are trash talking each other left and right. So, but definitely the 9 a.m. lull, it could be they're in a transition. That sun hits the water, they do crazy things. I know in the evening you'll get that 30-minute lull where they were deep for, you know, the sun gets at a certain angle and they're sitting down in the creek channel or on the edge, and all of a sudden you'll get a 30-minute lull where they're just kind of and it's because they're starting to move up and get ready to move shallow. So yeah, you probably have one in the morning as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of lulls, and I think the thing I'd challenge you to do is when that happens, if you've been throwing fast-moving baits in the morning leading up to that and catching aggressive fish, go complete opposite. Go finesse or go slow down with something. You know, fish 8 times slower than you were. But if you were catching them on like flipping and pitching, you know, bottom baits or whatever, and you have that lull, I think it's time to break the reaction baits out, you know, cranking or something to try and trigger, because they truly could be in a lull or not in a feeding mood, and you need to create reaction strikes. So that's sides there, I think.
Yep. Let's see. That was my buddy Basquatch Hunter. He says, you're the best educational content, Gene. Keep teaching the world to fish. Can't wait to fish with you again. Sweet, man. Yeah, you guys got good weather up north. All right, let's find a good question. So,
watching Wisconsin. What's that, like a 7-pound smallmouth?
Yeah. Here we go. Mitch Coleman. What's up, Gene? What's your favorite way to cover water? I'm fishing the Willamette River for both large and smallmouth. Willamette's in Oregon.
Yep, out west.
I used to live just just down from the Willamette River for a couple of years. So, favorite way to cover water, as in, I'm guessing he means like what lures and stuff like that is what I'm guessing. So, I mean, crankbait's always, the square bill's always my first.
Mm-hmm.
I'll grab a crankbait and just roll, or spinner bait, depending on the lake, depending on confidence, really, because there are sometimes I just have no confidence in a spinner bait whatsoever. I can't explain why or anything else. I'll just leave it in the box and grab a crankbait. So, and then when I think that they're in a funk, I'll use a soft jerk bait like a Fluke and just work it real fast and work it around cover.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I've never been to Oregon. The way I obviously keep tabs all over the place. But you're telling me that you're in a river situation out west, covering water. I think from a if you're moving and wanting to cover water from a top, middle, bottom, approach, very basic. Top, I might go with like a 100 size Berkeley Chapo, like Whopper Plopper style lure. So that mid size, maybe even smaller if that works for the size fish you're fishing for. Because you can just cover so much water, and you can throw it at targets. You can just cover water. If I'm going for something subsurface, gosh, I know a jerkbait's got to be just a big fish catcher for that kind of situation and that kind of body of water.
Yep.
So I would definitely probably throw a jerkbait. And I'm imagining this as kind of a cleaner water river, and I know big smallmouth. Like if you go on Bass U TV, and this is more of a smallmouth deal, but Seth Feider's seminar on, I think we called it river monsters, Smalley river monsters, so it was more of a smallmouth thing. But I think he said a jerkbait is one of his favorite baits for giant river smallmouth. And then if I was trying to get more close to the bottom and deflect off of stuff, I'd be throwing a square bill or a DT10 or whatever kind of crankbait I need to get down there. A Berkeley dredger is a great one because it's a small compact crankbait and can get down fast too.
Yep.
Like in that deeper zone. But I'd probably crank if I needed to go to the bottom.
Yeah. Here's a good beginner or basic question. Outdoor Jack, I'm going to give you a hat for this one too. He says, how do I know the action of a rod? I'm going to let you answer that while I write him down or I'll forget.
So how do you know the action?
Yep.
Man, it's the so you hear the term fast action a lot, it's the point to which where the tip of that rod's going to bend down to where your rod's still going to be more.
Yeah, where the bend stops.
Yeah, where the bend stops. And gosh, I mean, if you think about it, Gene, years ago, especially like even in the times where you were starting your YouTube channel, we were all about those stiffer, fast actions, or just they called them pull cubes, because everybody's fishing mono. Now that we're fishing with less stretch lines, a fast action and a lot of more, parabolic bends on down through the rod is more of a popular thing. But man, as far as how do you know the action of a rod, I mean, I think the only way to know is to commit yourself to a brand that you like and get to know all the different actions that they have, because somebody's medium fast against somebody else's medium fast is going to be different. It's just, there's always, and that's just me speaking, like there's just not, everybody's just not making rods the exact same anymore. So like my medium light might be the perfect jerkbait rod for and somebody else's, if they did it, they don't even do a medium light because their medium matches the medium light that you get from somebody else.
Yeah,
it
makes
sense.
I've got a video I made many years ago where I've got a bunch of Duckett rods bent over with weights on it.
Same brand.
same brand. And one of the key things I say in that video is there is no industry standard.
Exactly. That's the point. There you go.
Yep. And Duckett is known for being soft on the tip, and that kind of stuff. And so the biggest thing is to know the action and power. You can look at the rod and it tells you that it's a 7 foot something, medium heavy, fast or extra fast or whatever. But to really, if you want to dive into the advanced part of it, get to the point where you can flip it over and lay it down on the carpet. I hate when tackle shops have hard floors because I hate to put my rod, a rod down on the floor and flex it.
Oh, I too, because you've broken rods doing it.
Yes, I have.
In a store, break a rod and have to go buy a $200 rod that day.
Yeah, exactly. So it's you get to the point where you can look at it and say, okay, this is one I'm going to like, this one I'm not. But you're right. Pick a brand, and I rarely ever say stay loyal to a brand. But when you're talking about rods, if you're going to have multiple rods like we do, then pick a brand and stick with it, and so each of those actions as you get heavier or stiffer or whatever else, it kind of goes in line. But that's I feel like we went around our elbow to get to our butt, but that was kind of the meat and potatoes of it anyway. So let me hold on a second. I got to block a user real quick. There we go. See you later. Bye-bye. All right. Have you fished in Oklahoma? If so, where? And what is your favorite fluke make and color for your go-to? I'll tell you favorite flukes. I've got, of course, the Zoom Fluke, Zoom Super Fluke are the two that I use from Zoom. But the Strike King caffeine shad is a real good one if you want to work real fast. Mm-hmm. I used it a ton on blueback herring lakes because on blueback herring lakes, you work in things a lot faster than you would anywhere else. And that salt and that caffeine shad just kept it down, and you had a lot better action and that kind of stuff. But those are the ones I mainly use. They're the ones I've used for years, and I really haven't played with anything else that's come out since probably 15 years ago. But what do you think, Justin, since you're the bait guru?
I fished in Oklahoma. I want to. I know, Grand Lake's a big deal out there, and I've hired a lot of guys from Oklahoma, so I know a lot about the fisheries out there. Definitely want to go out there at some point. But, man, as far as my favorite fluke, all right, I'm going to break it down. All right, so I'm from Georgia. The Zoom Fluke is basically the Yamamoto Cinco of its shape, of its soft plastic shape. It's the one that gave us that. I don't know that it necessarily was the first soft plastic jerkbait, but it was the first one that just performed the way, in a lot of different ways, honestly, that people were wanting to create it for. That's awesome all over the place, and you get the colors that you want. So, like, sometimes they just have a color that nobody else has that works. But I'm going to give you two more that play. One is going to be more on the scent spectrum, so spotted bass, smallmouth bass, but I've been really catching a lot of spots on it. That's the Berkeley Gulp one, the one that looks just like a dang fluke, but they put it in that gulp stuff, and for whatever reason, they really eat it good. And then a big time thing for drop shotting. If you're drop shotting a fluke, and guys do the small 3-4 inch ones, and then the full size 5-inch ones too, everybody else gets their butt kicked by the Elastec ones. That's the one to drop shot. Okay, so you've got the Z-Man jerk shad or scented jerk shad or whatever. They've got all different kinds, but the Z-Man soft plastic jerk bait, whichever one that is, I'm forgetting the name right now. That's the standard. Obviously, Strike King has got the same exact one. I'm sure they're poured by the same dang factory and just packaged differently. But that's the Z2 or something.
Yeah.
So those are, they're going to have slightly different colors maybe, but like that's the one you want to drop shot. And that's also the one you want to stick on a jig head if you're doing that whole jig head fluke thing, you know, whether you're tight lining it or dropping on them or something like that. But yeah, Elastec is above all for the drop shot, and it's a big time thing for smallmouth up north, but they do it down here too. So
yep, I go a little bit. I love using Elastec for drop shot. What I'll do sometimes is I want a little bit of weight to make it fall a little bit, and so I'll take I've got the same hypodermic needle I use when I'm fizzing fish stays it's taped in underneath my console in my boat. Mm-hmm. So I'll pull that hypodermic needle out and I'll carefully make a hole in that Elastec, because you know how hard it is to do that any other way. And the little nail weights, the lead nail weights, I'll just cut the tip of it off and put the tip down in there just to give it a little bit of weight. And it causes that. And depending on where I put it in that worm or in that soft plastic, it depends. It'll affect the fall, but I'll put it just a little far back so when it falls like this, and it just kind of wiggles when it falls, and it goes real slow. And so a little bit of fun, but that's I love. Because of my Fluke days, I love playing around with weights and how to make things fall in specific ways. And I get hammered when I'm doing that because it looks just like a fish that's just coming off the bottom and struggling and then just kind of dying, and it wiggles just like this when it falls.
Yeah, that's nice. Because there's a lot of ways you can get them to fall. I mean, you can get them to spiral. Yep. You can get them. What's your favorite way to rig it?
As in a jerk style or what?
Just, do you go single hook? Do you like to, thread a hook through them like some people do? Because
I just
the pop rivet trick with a treble hook.
Yes, I've done that. Yep. I haven't done it.
Mike Kelly on his YouTube channel, on the pop rivet trick. That's like my favorite way. I mean, I love soft plastic. I'm right in the same camp. I love those things.
Yep, I haven't done that in a number of years. When Ryan was living with me, we did that a lot, and then it just kind of. I have a box of them that him and I built, and I haven't done anything with them since. But
dude, I ran into him right after he won a big tournament around. Was it Black Shoals or Varner? He won a tournament.
It would have been Black Shoals.
Yeah, Black Shoals. I ran into him afterwards, and basically busted him restocking. And he was nose hooking that Fluke and throwing it on like 6-pound test. And I was like, what are you doing? And, learned me a little Lanier trick back in the day.
That boy was something else. It was something else. The youngest person ever to win Co-Angler of the Year in the BFL.
Yep.
To this day. Crazy. Lee Means donated $10. I don't know if I should appreciate that or not. No, just kidding.
throwing money at us.
Yeah. Heading to St. Clair in the morning. Yeah. Yeah, it's just going to be there the whole week. Anything else we should be throwing other than drop shots and finesse on St. Clair? No, that's what I'd be throwing this time of the year.
I'm going to tell you, I don't know St. Clair a lot. I know guys who do. That is one of the lakes, though, that a jerkbait or a crankbait, huge for catching big smallies. You're going to have the drop shots and the finesse on at all times, obviously. But that lake, more than a lot of others in this region, just shines for reaction baits. You could get on a spinnerbait bite. I have no clue how deep or where they're going to be right now. I would say they've migrated. I'd say they're probably still out. But Lee, I wonder if because Lee has hung out with our crowd at Classics and ICAST and stuff. Lee, I don't know if you've ever met Jeremiah Eads, but that dude is one of the best guys that I know who just goes up every time he goes to St. Clair. He just cracks him. I know him through Cash and Rods and stuff. He's on their pro staff or whatever. But man, I'd be looking him up and see if he'll give you anything. But he might not. But I would say the one thing I learned too going up north, Gene, when you're cranking those smallmouth, you don't want to go dig the bottom. You want to put above them. So if it's 15 feet deep, throw a 10-foot diver. If it's 20 foot deep, throw that 16-foot diver. If you're seeing them on your, I know he's going to use live scope. He works for Garmin. So if you're seeing them, you want to get them to come up like 6 to 10 feet. So wherever they're at, you want to get them to come up that far, and they will come up that far.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Yeah. I've caught a ton of them on Mille Lacs cranking a rock crawler, but not hitting the bottom, and that was more of a color thing that day. They wanted that craw color with the chartreuse belly. And I went through 3 of them real quick.
Yeah. A rock crawler is the same thing as a wiggle wart. And I mean, Pete Glusek, the dean of the Bass University, I mean, I'd be watching some of his old classes back in the day I think he has a smallmouth class that would probably relate well for your St. Clair trip. But a wiggle wart, is the same thing. Basically, it's in the same category as a rock crawler. And he has caught so many big, giant smallmouth on a wiggle wart, but you don't hit the bottom. You don't want to be, you don't want them coming down. You want them coming up. So like if you're in 10 feet, if they're like in 10 feet, throw something that only dives like 4 feet.
Yep. Jennifer Ellis, this is a good question. She says, can bass hear sounds or feel vibration in the water while you fish from the bank? Yes, to a point. It depends on how close they are and all that other stuff. But I always try to approach, if I'm bank fishing, I always try to approach very, very carefully. My first cast if I'm bank fishing to the water is literally when I'm still 8 to 10 feet away from the bank and I'm approaching it, and I'm going to throw straight out in front of me. And I might throw a few times at the angles to the left and right, just in case there's a bass right there where I want to stand and fish. Then I'm going to approach it carefully, try to be soft on my feet. Whether you're talking and stuff back and forth, I've never seen that make an effect. Playing music, that's a different story, that kind of stuff. I don't like to play my music loud, but I'll play it soft, like in my pocket, have the phone going. But then I'll make that fan cast like I always do, start with the banks and then work my way out. And those fish, if they're going to be shallow, they're going to be right up against the banks, and you're going to want to keep it in their strike zone and then work my way out and then move to the next area. But always be soft on your feet, because I really feel like they feel the vibration of your feet if you're hard on your feet, or if you're breaking limbs on the way there, or that kind of stuff. So
that's a great tip, Gene. The only thing I'd add, Jennifer, is go to Bass U TV. We just launched a new bank fishing series called Take It to the Bank by Ike and Ellie himself. And Mike's, always been passionate. He likes to fish anywhere, whether he's in a little of a John boat, or on the bank, or on a bridge, or in a boat, in a kayak, whatever, but he did a series. We've got 5 more coming to Bass U TV over the, that will be released throughout the year. But we wanted to do more for the bank fishermen. And, we're that tip right there though is solid. I'm always 20 feet off, like, throwing like 3 feet into the water with like a frog, trying to get them to come up at it.
Yeah. And Jennifer, we're gonna give you the 4th hat.
Awesome.
You can either email me, gene@flukemaster.com, or you can go to my Facebook page and send me a message, and just send us your mailing address. We'll get Bass U to send you that freaking cool hat. Of course, nothing's cooler than this hat I'm wearing right here. So
go Dogs.
So anyway, that's that. Congratulations. Now, like I said, at the end of this, we're going to give away a 1-year subscription to Bass University, and I'm literally just going to fly through randomly pick a comment is what I'm going to do. So, and you have to be here to win. So I've never been able to pick a person and them not be there and then be able to give them they've never come back to give me the information. So,
got it.
All right. Drew Stunts, thanks for the $5. He says, would you recommend the SS127 to SS127 to a taller guy? Yes. It's a very stable kayak. Michael Moon just put War Eagle. I'm not even going to put that up on the screen. It's the SS1.
They beat us like twice in the last 2 decades.
Oh no, definitely.
It's okay.
But to be a taller guy, yeah. If you've got a lot of weight and you're tall, I've seen it get a little tippy. I've seen one guy roll a SS127 on accident, but he was a rather large 6'6" guy, and I don't know how to say this nice. He was a little slow, and so it was one of those things where he just didn't have the coordination to do it. For me, I'm not quite 6 feet tall. I'm pretty chubby around the top, around the belly, and so. But you see me in my videos all the time. Side saddle. I'll flip around and fish side saddle. I don't worry about that boat tipping. And so the best thing I tell everybody is get out there and try one before you buy it. Find somebody that has one. Find a paddle shop that has a demo model or has demo days, and go try one. So Outdoor Jack, my email is, I'll put it back up right there. How's that? I just saw his comment and I'm messing everything up now because I'm clicking on everything. All right. Whew. Let me see if I can find Michael Moon. We're going to ignore your comment.
That was coming.
Oh, goodness. Okay, let's see.
Getting Auburn out of the way earlier this year, Gene.
I know. It's right. It's right. It's early in
Vanderbilt spot. Something, you know.
Yeah, well, I hope we're still undefeated by then.
Gosh.
So
got a big game the first week.
Yeah, Noel Benny, I see your comment. I will get to it when I feel like it because you're spamming it, and it drives me absolutely nuts. Gene, did you test drive the Hobie Lynx? I did not. I didn't have time. Believe me, I tried. But iCast is a whirlwind. Good gosh almighty. I don't even remember half of it.
Time to test ride when you're working iCast.
Well, you have on the water. You have iCast on the water the day before.
Yeah, I was doing the iCast Cup this year. And normally I do a golf tournament because it's like golfing and fishing. So I haven't
something funny happened. Speaking of Z-Man, we're both buddies with the guys over at Z-Man, but they had their booth and they were showing the new chatterbait, which I have, by the way.
Whoa, the big blade?
Yeah.
Oh, you after the show.
I had to kiss up really, really bad.
Yeah, I don't have any of that.
But anyway, so
last year when they weren't in production. But
yeah.
Well,
there was this young guy that grabbed a rod to go test it out, and this was early in the morning, first when they opened up, and he caught a fish on it out in that ugly lake that's behind the show, and next thing you know, he's gone. Rod's gone. He's gone, and they couldn't find him. And I showed up probably about an hour later, and I'm looking for it tied onto a rod. They're like, some guy took the rod, and we haven't seen him. And we looked around the bank, and he was all the way on the other side of the lake, still fishing. So this poor young guy thought that it was not for demo. It was for, grab it and go fishing.
Go fishing. And he probably jacked him too, man.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he was catching them. But, and so, the Z-Man guys, they're so nice. I mean, they didn't want to fuss at this guy or anything else. I said, you know what? I got it. And I went out on the dock, and he was right across the way from me. And I got a good loud voice. And I yelled at him. I said, hey, Z-Man wants their rod back. And he waved at me and came back around. It was so funny. We've never had that happen where just a rod disappeared and the guy just went fishing.
Oh, that's
hilarious. But
I know
that's a pretty
caught some biggins at the time, like a couple 5-6 pounders or something like that.
Yeah, they were chomping. Last year they weren't, or 2 years ago they weren't chomping at all, but they were chomping real good this year. That new big bladed chatterbait, I think it'll be really good for slow rolling. If you speed it up, it starts to roll, but man, getting it down on the bottom.
A more heavier thump. Like I was able to, and in the dirtiest water, which of course we fish these red clay lakes in Georgia and Alabama and stuff. Dude, it's just going to be such a big time player for muddy water. It really is.
Yep. Oh, that's actually a pretty good question. Sometimes it's controversial. It says, hello, gentlemen. What does someone say or do to someone who continually fronts you in the boat? Don't want to have to throw him out of the boat, but it may come to that. Since you're a co-angler, I know you've dealt with it. So what do you do?
Fishing. I mean, you have no choice. You signed it. You signed up for it. I mean, you're already, putting yourself into getting fronted. I mean, if there are situations where they might need to get parallel to a bank, and that stinks for you. If you watch that live, we've done 2 live shows now, or 3 for co-anglers. I've been a part of 2 of them on Bass U Live, and I give you tips how to handle those situations. There's a lot of things you can do depending on whether it's throw out in the middle that he's not targeting, or just try to target fish that he's not targeting. But getting fronted, I mean, heck, if you're just out there fun with your buddy, you might need to throw him out of the boat. I mean, it's not like you're in a tournament.
Yeah, I'll lay one. I'll lay one across the shoulder.
Yeah, get aggressive, man. Fire it out there, But
So
if
when
you're
I'm
in a tournament, be respectful.
Yep.
And I always said, as a co-angler in the co-angler events, 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4, I was never going to get an opportunity to probably do well in that tournament. But the ones that I did well, and I started to do well in a lot of them as co-angler, it wasn't that I got fronted or didn't get fronted. It never was that. It was that I was ready for the opportunity when it came, and when it did, I executed. I remember winning a tournament one time where I didn't get a lot of opportunities, but I got, one opportunity and caught a big one, and it was the one that sealed the deal. And I was able to pick off some keepers here and there, but I only got maybe 5 bites that entire day.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you're fishing a dock lake and you're a co-angler, you're gonna get front-ended all day long. And when I'm the boater,
every one of them, Gene. Yeah. So I made a habit. So if this way's the front of the boat, I would quarter my body away from the front. I'm not even trying to fish up with him, And if he passed a target, I've caught so many good fish out of the back of the boat doing this. Letting the boat get away from the target. It's resting now. He's on to another one, especially if you're dock fishing. And then you come in at a different angle, and the presence of the boat is not on top of that target anymore.
Yep.
If you're fishing forward and you're target fishing, right? This isn't offshore or anything, but you're target fishing, and they're going, well, when you try to get in there behind him and you're quartering with the boat, right? He's kind of, say he's quartering. Well, he moves on, and you can kind of get in there behind him. Well, now the boat's coming, and it's right on top of that target by the time you're kind of fishing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you position yourself, it's a totally different mindset. But if you push yourself back that way, and now your casts go even with the back of the motor or behind it, the presence of the boat is leaving. And I think that's a big deal, especially in tournament fishing, pressured fish situations. But I can't tell you how many times, like the regional that I won, 19, fished with a great fisherman that day, and he caught him. He caught him all 3 days. He got second in the tournament. But something happened, and his boat kind of drifted. He had like a 3 or 4 pounder come up at his spinnerbait, and I was fishing a shaky head at targets, just trying to eke out. I had 4 fish, and just trying to eke out 1 bite. I knew a limit would probably do it for me. And he stopped. Well, now the fish was in front of me. I never even once thought at trying to get in there really quick. That's just, to me, that's disrespectful. And I said, don't worry about me, man. Just whatever. And I just started bombing behind the boat. Well, he's fishing. He's got the poles down. The problem was the boat was right on top of the target. And he moved on. He finally moved on after trying to, throwing 5 or 6, 7 casts at that fish. He moved on. Well, I didn't even pitch in there right away. I was like, do you mind if I throw in there? Like we both know there's a big fish in there. And he's just like, sure, man. Well, I wait until the boat's gone, and I pitch a long pitch in there. I didn't pitch a short pitch when we were close by. It's 3 3/4 pounder, and won me a boat. That was the fish. That was the last fish that did it. But that's that whole mindset where out of the back of the boat, I did better fishing targets or up shallow, turning my body at an angle to where I never got in that position where I was trying to fish with him. Because guess what? Everybody else is doing that. And I've convinced myself it's not that I'm doing something different than everybody else. It's that I figured out a way that this is the better way to be in the back of the boat. It's the better way. Yeah, awesome. You might get dragged and stuff like that, but you learn ways to settle your bait by a target and play around with weights and stuff that let you fish a fish.
I've never thought of it that way. That's freaking crazy. Now I have seen where I was in a kayak and I was fishing on Kentucky Lake. I was fishing one of these mega schools, and a bass boat come by and the school shut down.
Oh yeah.
But the minute the minute they crank that motor, literally the second that big motor cranks, the school turns back on, because the fish know. They've been conditioned because they get beat up so much. They know that boat's leaving, and I'm still sitting there, quiet and pretty, just sitting there catching. So yeah, it's amazing what we've done to the attitude and the mood of these fish.
Yeah, as far as public water fishing, that's the truth.
Yep. All right, Noel Benny says, I'm fishing tomorrow and I'm using a drop shot. And what should I use for bait wise? Well, we were talking about the Z-Man. The Elastec stuff, I like to wacky rig a finesse worm on a drop shot. It's one of my favorite little things. Because I always have finesse worms in my box. And if I don't, especially in a kayak, I'm limited to what I have. So,
yeah.
But that kind of stuff, that's what I would use. It's hard to say. I don't know what your water clarity is and that kind of stuff. But if you're going to be drop shotting, do it the typical way, and then flip your whatever bait you're using, flip it around and try a wacky rig. So
if you're up north or you're fishing for smallmouth, I'm going to tell you to go through a Berkeley Max Scent flatworm or flat-nosed minnow. And then if you're just kind of anywhere, like not smallmouth, like I love a robo worm and a Missile Baits bomb shot.
Yep.
Those are my
definitely.
But I like that wacky rig, man. I'm telling you, I do not wacky rig a drop shot much, like hardly ever. And we talked to Taku Ito, who's like, he just won at Champlain. He's a Japanese angler that came over, and within his first 2 years, he won an Elite Series event. And we're talking to Taku, and that guy wacky rigs like everything, drop shot, like loves to rack, like that's a big deal. And he's obviously just catching them like crazy the last couple of years. That's a big part of what he does.
Yep.
I got to do it.
Let me think. Let me find another good question. Justin, what's your personal best? Largemouth.
Largemouth, 12 pounds, 2 ounces.
Ooh. Where'd you catch that one?
Speed worm, weightless, slow rolling it.
Just really?
It wasn't biting the way I thought it should. But I caught that in what county were we in? It was either Oconee County or Walton County, one. But there was this lake that 15 acres, 14 acres, just smaller lakes, got hydrilla. It had a hydrilla at the time, and I had heard it had big ones. And maybe the second day I ever went fishing, it was pre-spawn, It's like late February, first week of March.
Yep. Yeah, here's a good question. I gotta go to the restroom, so I'm gonna leave you to answer this one. If y'all had to choose only one bait for all year round, what would it be and why? And I'll be right back.
Awesome. Great question, Andre. This one gets asked at our Bass U seminars all the time. And it's a fun question. First off, I would tell you or tell anybody else whatever you enjoy the most catching them on, because it's going to keep you going. You know, I understand why those big swim bait guys just dedicate themselves to going after big fish, but more so it's because those big baits are so fun to throw. Even when like they'll mesmerize the fishermen just as much as they will the fish sometimes. So, you know, if I was fun fishing, I would throw a big, huge swim bait like year round, just trying to catch big ones. But if I'm more in a competitive mode, or if I'm just trying to make sure I catch fish every day, it's by far a jig, a skirted jig, you know, like maybe a compact one if you're in a region where your fish aren't as big, maybe a full size one, you know, like Ike's Missile Jigs mini flip or something. Or like I know Andre, I think you're up in the Northeast, but that's probably what I do. But I think you can swim it, you can burn it up on top, you can, you know, you can flip and pitch it, you can target fish with it, you can go offshore and drag it, you can do everything with a jig. So that's my answer. If I'm having fun, and if it's strictly for bigs, like I am going to go into the big bait craze and just throw big baits, because they'll mesmerize me while I'm not going to catch them. But if I have to catch them or a competition or something, the jig is like the most versatile bait, and it's a confidence bait of mine too. So
I'm gonna have to 100% agree. I mean, because of versatility alone, a jig, because you can do so much. You can copy so many other types and styles of baits and actions with a jig, and so you don't just. I love to drag it, but you know it is what it is. So why am my phone's getting blowed up?
I love to drag it too, man. I love to swim it. I love to skip it up under docks. I love to burn the heck out of it. That's my favorite bite. And you're speed reeling it. Like those smallmouth guys get to do that a lot. You know, where they're swimming those jigs with those light wire hooks. You know, that's a big thing up there, and you'll just burn the heck out of that thing, and those smallies rip your arm off with it.
I'll send you pictures when I'm up there.
Yeah, I don't get to do that as much.
There's a little lake around Mille Lacs that I fish every time I go. I don't even fish Mille Lacs most of the time. I usually go to some of the smaller lakes close. And there's one that's super deep. When in September, when those smallmouth move up, there's 6 and 7 pounders in this little lake. Woo. And it's so much. There's one big flat on this lake, and it's like 120-foot drop and into a hole. And I'll send you pictures. It's amazing.
You know, 30 smallmouth, like a 30-pound bag, 5 fish limit of smallmouth. That's a little taste of heaven.
Yeah, for sure. My biggest smallmouth is 6.9 pounds, so almost 7 pounds, and that was out of Lake Erie. So,
wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
I've caught 3 in the 5.5 pound class. I think mine's 5 pounds 10 ounces, but it was on top water, so that was She jumped clear out of the water.
Tyler, this is a really good question. Tyler J. He says tips for line management when using quality fluoro on casting gear. Line always wants to jump off the spool. In my experience, what I typically do if I'm having that issue, because I do use the larger bulk spools, and it'll try to when it's new. And I'm having that issue, especially with spinning gears. What I used to give me fits before I started using all braid. But you take your spool out of your reel after you put it on. I tape it, take it out of my reel, and I just put it in some hot tap water for about a minute, and then pull it back out, and it gets the memory around the spool that you're using that. As for having backlashes when you're doing it, a lot of times If you're fishing a slack line technique, like dragging a jig or dragging a Texas rig or a Carolina rig, anything where you're reeling up slack line, you're going to get loose line around that spool. And so about every 5 to 6 casts, I put my thumb down on the spool and after a cast, and I make 4 or 5 turns with my hand, with my thumb on that spool to tighten that line back down on that spool. And it'll prevent your backlashing. You'll get it. And if you don't do that, you're going to backlash about every 8 casts. If you're slackline, reeling in slackline, and you'll see that a lot, especially with fluorocarbon. And it's just part of it. It really is. And I run my reels super loose, not free spool, but super loose. So I get them a lot. And I find out that if I forget to put my thumb down, I'll get a backlash,
Yeah, I think that's a great technical answer. I'm a little bit more lazy, and back in my co-angler days, I deal with this almost on the daily because you get in bad angles. You're not always in control of your angles, so you're trying to make a cast that's just kind of awkward, but you got to make it, and you're gonna deal with the same experience that you're doing, Tyler. And the thing that I live and die by to just kind of shorten it for me is the best $10 or less that you'll spend is real snot. Real snot,
Yep.
real snot, real snot. It's constantly in my pocket. Or as a boater now, I have a little cubby like right next to my foot pedal. It's always there. And it's because I believe in it. It just, when I get like a reel that I just can't figure out, and the moment you get that backlash, she's coming back like on the reg, like she's coming back like every 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That thing's just gonna get you, and that's the real snot. Really has a lot of qualities, and they'll tell you, it'll help your casting distance, sure, it'll help you in cold weather, sure, but this reason is exactly why I use it.
Yep, and I love real snot. Absolutely love it. I'm not a fan of their different smells, but I don't care about that. It's just they got a coffee scent that smells really good, though.
Yeah, I've gotten that coffee scent, but there was one, because me and Matt, we've been using it for years. Matt's my team partner. We fish a lot of team tournaments together. Matt's always had it in his boat too, and there was one time where we were out of the regular stuff. The coffee stuff was nowhere to be found, but I picked up the garlic, not realizing what. I thought it was the regular, I didn't know it was the garlic. And I just got it all over my hands, and sure enough, my beard was smelling like garlic by the end of the day. It just... Oh, you got me. Yeah, I felt like I was had on a practical. Yeah.
All right. Charles Stevens says, Gene, what's the worst thing that you have dropped off your kayak? I don't drop a lot of things off my kayak. Myself, I leaned over too far once and realized I was about to go in, and instead of knocking stuff off my kayak, I threw myself into gator infested water in Louisiana and then got back in really, really quick. But I've dropped a rod once a long time ago, but I was able to turn around and find it. It was in real shallow water. Not much. Cause the thing about that, if you're worried about that, you've got to have a place for everything in your kayak, cause you've got limited space. And I have so much stuff I got 2 fish finders. I've got a motor on the front. I've got a bunch of batteries and stuff like that. I got so much crap on my kayak. There has to be a place for everything, and everything has to go back in its place when you're not using it. And so that's the biggest key to why I haven't lost any rods. Plus those Yak Attack rod holders that have the lockable little sleeves that roll over and lock your rods in. There are certain ones that stay locked, like the one that's close to my net. So if I grab my net and it hangs onto that rod doesn't go in the water. Rarely, the way I have it set up now, rarely does it grab that rod, but sometimes it will if there's like a crankbait on that rod or whatever else. I'll reach that back and grab it. And as long as that I remembered to lock that rod in when I put it back in that rod holder, I don't have a problem. So the place for everything and any rod that can possibly be knocked in, lock them down and you'll be just fine. It really, I mean, it's been years since I've dropped anything in the water. So,
Gene,
and
I fish much. I've kayak fished, I think 3 or 4 times. I love going in saltwater, so I have done that like 2 or 3 times. But freshwater, I think I've done 3 or 4 days, and every time I catch them. It's why I think kayaks are so sneaky and they're great tools because the fish are just not, especially on public bodies of water, they're just not accustomed. I don't think they can know you're there, honestly, for a lot of reasons, unless you're like splashing around or whatever. But I went kayak fishing one day with Paul Benson with Cashin Rods, and you know Paul.
mm-hmm. Yep.
And I mean, I was having a morning. Like, I think I had a 27 or 28 pound day that day. I was calling them tugboats. You know, you're hooking them on a frog and they're just pulling you around. And that was a fun experience. But Paul dropped his phone. he was talking to me. He's like, man, what are you catching them on? I was like, man, they're eating anything, man. Just get off the phone. You know, he's always on the phone, answering sales calls nonstop. And best thing that happened to him that day was he dropped his iPhone right into the bottom of the lake over like 15 feet of water where there was no way we were getting that back. And then he finally caught like a 7.5 pounder after that because he wasn't on the phone so much. But it was hilarious.
Oh, goodness. I got a couple of questions. SS Outdoors, this is a good one. When should I abandon my plan in a tournament? That's for you. I'm not much of a abandon my plan guy.
Fishing tournaments. You're not much of an abandon your plan. So there's general things like, I remember Iaconelli used to have the 1 hour rule. You know, and that's the rule he gave himself when he was, you know, competing a lot. And I'm sure that's evolved. I think it can depend, you know, like I gave myself, like, say the BFL that I won at Lake Oconee this year, plan A didn't work. You know, plan A had worked the weekend before, and I gave it 45 minutes, and I probably gave it 30 minutes too long, you know. But I'd say if you go an hour or 2 hour and they're just not doing it, it's definitely time to change. But I don't know. I think there's that sixth sense that you're going to develop over experience where you might recognize things as soon as 10 to 15 minutes. So you have to react.
Yep.
The moment you lose confidence in the area or the technique, so you don't necessarily have to change your techniques. You could stay in the same areas, you know, or you could move areas with the same techniques, or you could change techniques in the same area. The moment you lose confidence and that gut tells you, oh, maybe I should do this, you start listening to that. But confidence like that's developed over time and experience, and but it's such a deep question, and I mean, I can pose this same question on our Bash U Live show to the panel of Elite Series pros Caleb Summerall and Greg DePalma, you know, tournament fishermen, and we had like a session where I did like this on water decision making deal where I had like 5 of the most commonly asked questions, and they gave some different answers. You know, so you can go watch that on Bash U TV, the last live show from Tuesday night, to get another outlook on it. But definitely a great question, and one that it'll be more of a gut and confidence thing.
Yeah. Outdoor Jack asked Gene, what helped you be big on YouTube? Whew, that is a loaded question. I'm going to give you, I'm different than most of the other YouTubers these days. I started really early. I'm the one that didn't quit. out of all the guys that started YouTube around the period of time that I did, I'm one of the few that did not quit. And that's what I tell a lot of people. Start now, make all the mistakes, figure out how to edit, all that other stuff, but don't quit. And you will grow to a point. I don't know what that point is. I didn't know what point it was when I started. I mean, I never thought I'd see 100,000 subscribers in my life when I was starting to roll with YouTube. I just didn't think it was possible. I'm still growing. I'm not growing as fast as I would love to, but I'm still not quitting. I don't let anything get me down. I don't let the haters get me down. Good thing is I got a really good filter that keeps a lot of those comments out, so none of you guys see the comments that I get every day. But biggest thing is, Jack, start and don't quit, and learn from all your mistakes, because that's part of it. So let me see. Oh, Redfish Rambo, how you doing, man? Thanks for the $10, brother. He says, where should I fish to gain confidence in jigs in the South? I fish in tidal, shallow, or deep delta creeks that are stained or muddy with tons of wood cover, overhangs in deep banks, and grass lines. I'm gonna let you take this one, Justin. I'm a dragger. When I'm throwing jigs, I'm literally finding hard bottom and I'm dragging most of the time. And then there's other lures that I typically like to fish in those type of situations that he's dealing with.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to know where, but like tidal, shallow, or deep delta creeks, like, dude, you're in a great place to fish jigs. Like, I don't know if he's asking about where to go, where else to go, or if he's asking where to go in those areas. But yeah, man, wood cover. If you've got cypress on some of the creek banks, or in that deal, I'd be looking for cypress uh, trees. You're in a great place for flipping those heavy cover type jigs, those flipping style jigs. You're also in a great place for a swim jig, really. Muddy water. Let's see, stained and muddy water. You're going to be looking at a lot of black and blues. Maybe like a brown. I would say too, if you're tidal and you're fishing delta creeks and stuff, there's got to be fish that are eating, blue crabs. And I'm telling you that in that dirty water, that flipping blue color, start chipping your jigs with that flipping blue color. You might be surprised if you're already not doing that. You might be surprised what happens. But if you've got grass lines and stuff, that's where you want to swim and jig. Get a good swim jig, and blacks and blues, or bluegill colors with some chartreuses and stuff to stand out in that stained and muddy water. Maybe some funky orange stuff, But that's a great place to be fishing jigs.
Oh yeah. I don't fish a lot of titles, and I need to. I'd love to get up there with Pete and just have him fill my brain full of tidal water knowledge.
I work for the Tidal Masters. I'll never forget getting to go to the James River, fishing open as a co-angler, and I practiced with Pete. He picked me up at the dock, and my study and research leading up to it, I was waiting at the dock. I was looking at the blue crab stuff, that they eat blue crabs up there and stuff. And so I was prepared to bring the flipping blues if I got stained water, and then maybe slightly add a little blue to my trailers and stuff for cleaner water. Well, I see this crab coming, the tide's kind of moving. I'm waiting at a dock for Pete to pick me up from a different ramp. And it's just like moving, hardly not doing anything. It's just kind of, it's not doing a lot of action. And I was like, I had packed a lot of action type stuff. I went to chunk, and I went to like hardly any action. And 10 minutes into practice, I catch a 9.5 pound giant. Just giant. And then throughout the practice, I catch a big one. Long story short, the flipping blue was a deal. So try that, man. I'd love to hear from him if it works out for him. But yeah, if you're fishing tidal, get on Bass UTV. We've got tons of great tidal water seminars from experts: JT Kinney, Mike Iaconelli, Pete Glusek, guys who cut their teeth at that stuff.
Yep. Yeah, Pete is a freaking, when it comes to tidal water.
Just a different game, man. Different game.
Yep. This is actually a good comment, and we can talk about this. I've always loved catching bass out of ponds, but when it comes to lakes, I get skunked more often than not for some reason, which is totally normal.
Oh, yeah.
But what I like to do if I'm going to a lake, even now, I like to pick a small area of the lake. Don't look at the lake as a whole. Look at the lake as, okay, there's a little creek arm. I'm going to go settle back in the halfway or in the middle of this creek arm or whatever else. I'm just going to work that area, and I'm going to pretend that it's a small lake, and I'm going to break that area down and stuff like that. I just like to make a big lake small. Especially when I first started, when I was used to, all the lakes on Fort Gordon and all the lakes on Charlie Elliott, all those little ponds. And I started fishing Oconee and Jackson, and I was like, man, this is just tough. I would just pick one area and I just learn it and fish it and just try to break it down and catch fish in that area. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely, I can remember being in the same situation where I felt like Jimmy Houston when I was pond fishing, and then I'd go to a public reservoir when I was a young kid or early teenager and just not understand why I wasn't getting bit. What I did was I consumed information, and it happened to be from tournament fishermen only because they were fishing on public bodies of water, and I started putting two and two together that, they're good for a reason. These guys are good for a reason. They're competing in some of the hardest and toughest conditions, and I'd say start consuming as much information as you can. But man, Gene gave you a better tip than I can. Make it small. Make it a pond. Figure out what can be a pond for you. It's like, I'm going to fish from here to here today, and just pick it apart. I'm going to move up on the bank. I'm going to move off, go in between, target different types of targets, and see if I can't start to build a pattern. Start looking for that first bite and that first clue, and just break that area down. That's the best tip, Gene.
Yep, definitely. All right, let's pick a winner. Well, I guess we could call it our grand prize winner of a 1-year subscription. So that's what, $150. Was that how much it is for a 1 year? $150?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. $150 1-year subscription to Bass University. Now, when I'm talking about Bass University, if you go on their website, they've got a ton of videos about every subject that you possibly can. And these are, from 5-minute videos to hour-and-a-half long seminars by some of the best pros in the country. And you can really dive in, and you can fill your brain full of so much stuff that your head's spinning and you're laying on the ground, staring up at the ceiling fan cross-eyed and drooling. I mean, it's just, there's so much information there. And so the biggest thing is just, when you go there, pick a subject and study it. When I'm getting ready to go down to Florida, I'm going, and luckily for me, I kind of know where these pros are the best at. And Bass U is really good at picking the right pros for certain subjects. Like when I'm going to Florida, I'm watching JT Kinney. As goofy as I think he is, he knows grass fishing and everything else and all that stuff down in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a stud down there. So I'm watching his videos, and I'm doing a ton of research when I'm traveling. And so that's where it's really, really good. But basically what I'm going to do is I got all these comments, and you guys, and the person that wins this has to be here listening, because I'm not going to try to hunt you down. I ain't got time for that. So I'm going to kind of zoom up and down the comments, and I got them all sitting right here, and I'm just going to stop and pick one. Benjamin Ripple. He says you need a good bloopers video, as a matter of fact. I wish I could.
You or us, but I think it's both.
Yeah, I need to have a camera running 100% of the time. Most of my bloopers, I don't have on camera because it's usually me knocking the camera in the water. But yeah, definitely, Benjamin. Let me either go to my email address or my Facebook page and give us your email address. Is
For this.
Yep.
Yep.
And so Justin will email you your basically your subscription and how you sign up and do all that other stuff.
Yep.
Um,
and we'll get hats in the mail to the hat winners next week. So Monday or Tuesday, whenever.
Yep.
I can get them, but I'll send that information over today. But since we're going into a weekend, they won't ship out until Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yep. Yep. Facebook is best, but if you don't have Facebook, then email me here at my alternate email address, the one I give out. So gene@flukemaster.com. I check that every couple of days, and I'll check it a lot more since we're waiting on information from you guys. But yeah, congratulations, man. Man, you're gonna love it. Seriously, like I said, I've been around since like the first or second year, and I don't mind dropping that $15 a month for the information I get off of it. So, but man, like I said, Bash U is our new title sponsor. Gonna be this way for a while. I love Pete Glusek. I love the guys at Bash U. I love what they have created. Their seminars are my favorite thing to go to every year. It's just a blast, and you're gonna get your money's worth. And I usually don't say, "Hey, you guys go buy something," but this is one of those things that you're gonna get your money's worth out of Bash U. I mean, they've got so. The cool thing, I think, and I meant to mention this at the beginning, Justin is the guy that pretty much lines up all the seminars and and the thing is that because he is such a fish head, he's such a guy who understands what each of these guys, and he lives and breathes the sport, and he knows all these anglers, and he knows who's the best at what. We've all been in those tournaments with those who are tournament fish, but there's those tournaments where you're on a jig bite. And the fish are biting jigs, and there are like 3 people in that tournament that you've got to beat.
Yeah.
Because these people are always when they're on a bite, they're going to win it. On Jackson, it was I can't remember what the guy's name. Oh gosh. Anyway, we had a guy that if they were a jig bite, you were fishing for second place because he was going to win it. And so you, as Justin, what his job is to pick out those guys and say, "Hey, come do a seminar with us. We'll pay you to do it," so on and so forth. And sets all that up so you guys get the best of the best at the techniques that they're talking about. I can talk about a bunch of techniques. I'm an expert at hardly any of them. But not as good as these guys. But anyway, so Benjamin, congratulations. Matter of fact, let me write that down or I will forget. Real quick. I used to date a girl by the last name of Ripple back in high school. But anyway, so congratulations, man. That's freaking awesome. We're going to do a bunch of these throughout the year. We're going to have, I'd love to have Justin on as many times as we possibly can. Get some other guys on if I can. We're still hatching out all those details. It is what it is. But if you guys really liked this, let me know in the comments. But Justin, anything you want to say before we leave?
Man, I appreciate you having me on. It was a blast. You know me, I'm long-winded. I can talk fishing for hours. Really, really enjoyed getting the chance to talk to the people that watch you and follow you, and just hope that just give us a chance over at Bash UT TV. If you just want to look at it or you're on the fence, we always have a free trial typically. I think right now you can get a 30-day free trial. And our annual offer right now is usually always our best offer. It's the Frog Days of Summer at Bash UTV, and it ends next week, Tuesday, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday. And we have a nice camo hat with black mesh. It's the Bash U camo hat with 2 River to Sea ish Monroe frogs that we're giving you for joining annually for the annual subscription. So that's what we got going on right now. Really excited about the content. We just shot some amazing on-water content with Lee Livesey and Caleb Sumrall and Pete Glusek. Of course, we've got our in-classroom seminars. We're popping off 3 or 4 things a week right now, weekly. whether it's a seminar, an on-water video, interviews that we've shot, and then we've got the live show weekly. And then I usually try to rotate in. There's been a project going on where we've been digitally remastering a lot of our older videos that still have great lessons and seminars. So we've been kind of throwing those out weekly as well. So a lot going on at Bash UTV and a lot more to come. I'm super excited. So I hope you guys give us a chance. And man, thanks for having me on, man. I would love to do this again. I'd love to throw Pete here in the fire with you one time. And, we love what you're doing. We're all on the same page. We're all truly passionate, Bash UTV. And of course you've made your career off of this, man, just trying to teach people how to fish and help people become better fishermen. And, man, it's genuine. And I love being a part of that movement, so.
Yep. Well, you remember, I'm just going to make it another 5 minutes, but you remember back in the day when this all started, there was nobody teaching anybody how to fish. Not that I could know of.
You had those old in-person things.
Yeah.
You didn't have anybody doing it on, online, videos, consistent content coming. You had magazines. We had magazines. I mean, that's how I learned to fish 25 years ago. Just think it's a magazine, We've come a long way, Gene. And
yeah, we have.
It's cool to see because the beginning fisherman or somebody who wants to get into bass fishing specifically, they can get to an advanced level faster than ever before.
Oh yeah.
I remember reading like the first article in a Bassmaster magazine, the first article that truly translated out on the water, and I went and applied something that I read and caught like 2 giants, I'm fishing from the bank or whatever, but I was like, oh my gosh, this actually works, talking about just burning the heck out of a lipless crankbait, in the wintertime in the pre-spawn. And I was like, well, hey, it's like that right now. I'm going to go do this. Throw a red lipless out there and just started catching giants. I was like, oh my gosh, this actually worked. They weren't lying, And then ever since that happened, I have consumed everything that I could possible about how to catch a bass. And it just hasn't stopped. So it's a forever sport for most of us and a lot of us. And it's, there's going to continue to be more fun ways to be able to catch them,
Yep. I can still take you to my aha spot where that happened. I know exactly where I was sitting. I know what, I was on Bennett Lake at Charlie Elliott, when they just opened it up, and I hooked about a 5-pounder on a spinnerbait.
Yep.
And she jumped up out of the water, and I never got her to the boat, but I was just like, I'm hooked. I'm done. I'm ready to do this.
Yeah. Oh, mine was on the banks of it was a golf course pond, but it was a little cove behind one of my neighbor's houses. And yeah, I'll never forget it. It wasn't my first bass, but it was the moment where I was like, the conversion from the education coming to fruition in the field, and that was like the best feeling ever, and always is,
Yeah, we need to take Benjamin's prize away from him. Look what he just commented.
That's okay. Like I said,
I guess we have to. We feel sorry for him. We might as well just give it to him. All right, guys, that's it. Justin, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Like I always say, guys, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water, go out and catch some fish, and have a great day. We'll see you.